Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm very excited. This is going to be a great presentation. So just a little housekeeping. Please mute your phones or computers if you're not a speaker. Our agenda today until about 9:15, we'll just do the welcome and a program overview of Central New Hampshire Community Opioid Response. Chris will speak for about 45 minutes from 9 to 10, and then we will have two Q&A sessions, one with Chris and one with our board members. Okay, so Central New Hampshire Community Opioid Response. The program is made possible by a 3-year Rural Community Opioid Response Program, or RCORP grant, from the Health Resources and Services Administration, HRSA. We have 5 organizations that represent our board members: Katy, Midstate, Spear, Park, and Lakes Region Mental Health Center. So a little bit about the landscape. The opioid crisis in our country today is unprecedented. It has evolved over the past several decades and has steadily worsened with time. Every state and community and every socioeconomic group has been directly impacted by the negative consequences. So I can see some people on here. So by a show of hands, how many people in the room have lost their family member to an opioid death? So I see a lot of hands going up. I think that's really common. Everybody's been affected in some way. So in a single year, this crisis alone has resulted in more American deaths than resulted in the course of the entire Vietnam War, or from the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the mid-90s. In 2018, there were more than 68,500 drug overdose deaths in the United States, according to the CDC. Last year in New Hampshire, we lost just under 500 lives, and the slight decrease that we've seen in recent times is rising again due to the stressors of COVID-19, whether that be social isolation or financial stressors, or just stressors of the pandemic. Suspected overdoses rose this year by 18% in March, 29% in April, and 42% in May compared to those same months last year. And while those are national numbers, the same trends can be seen right here between April and June in Coos and Grafton counties, which each saw marked increases in ED opioid use visits. The goal of HRSA's Rural Community Opioid Response Program, or RCORP,
video thing that video that CASA does the Senate.
Everybody mute their phones, please. The goal is to address the current opioid crisis head-on by preventing and reducing opioid misuse. And we know from data that the opioid crisis is growing at a shocking rate in rural communities. If you look at this graph here, the purple bars are rural communities. So you can see how much how much more affected they are than metro and suburban areas. So CNHCOR is Central New Hampshire Community Opioid Response. So our mission is, I can move that over. The Central New Hampshire Community Opioid Response Program aims to ensure comprehensive, coordinated, and easily accessible prevention, treatment, and recovery services for those impacted by opioid use disorders in the Central New Hampshire region. Our vision for the future is that we will build a community to prevent, treat, and promote recovery from opioid use disorders. The program will create a local system that is free of barriers, easily accessible, and fully integrated at every point of contact to reduce opioid misuse and promote healthy lifestyles and promising futures. So a little bit about our overall goals and objectives. Education and outreach efforts to build local resources, local service resources and capacity to navigate the at-risk population through the continuum services of prevention, treatment, and recovery. Building a no wrong door system of care and easy to navigate referral pathways. create stronger and more accessible linkages to the hub and spoke system with the doorways at Lakes Region Healthcare in Laconia and Littleton Regional Healthcare. And it aligns with the DHHS 5-point strategy. So improving opioid prevention, treatment, and recovery services, improving data pertaining to opioid addiction and overdose prevalence, risks, and services, optimize targeting of overdose reversing drugs, improve pain management, and collect data and conduct evaluation to improve research. This is our project structure. So we have this board here. Katie is the fiscal agent. Deb Narrow is the project director. We have Susan Houghton as the senior scientist. And I coordinate the program operations, management, and delivery. Board representation, as I mentioned before, is Katie, Midstate, Spear, Park, and Lakes Region Mental Health Center. And we are currently recruiting work group members at large. So whether people want to be a general at large member just of the consortium, or we do also have work teams that people can join. So the work teams are based around prevention, treatment and response, and navigation and recovery. So prevention focuses on education, stigma, harm reduction, including Narcan distribution, screening, monitoring, protocols, tools, and outreach. Treatment and response, which is treatment providers and mostly first responders. First response, active treatment, MAT, wraparound crisis management, training, and workflows. And navigation and recovery focuses on community navigation, social determinants, peer recovery, pathways, supports, and campaigns. So the overall work team goals, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We want to focus on connection, education, outreach, and efficient navigation. The groups will work to guide our process and projects. Think subject matter experts or think tank approach. And we want to assess and fill the gaps in the system. We want to reduce barriers to engaging individuals and strengthen collaborations in integrated treatment, response, recovery, and support services. Facilitate provider and staff training and education to increase screening and treatment. Develop tools and protocols, those gold standards, and help to distribute those. And community and professional education campaigns and outreach. A little bit about our accomplishments thus far. We're approaching a year of this grant in November. Well, I've been on since November. It's actually been since October, so we're at a year. Consortium board was formed, staff onboarded, MOU signed, and we developed our mission and vision statement. We did an assessment of scope of resources and gaps to address with strategy and action, developed community needs assessment instrument and launched data collection, developed a web-based information portal for opioid response and COVID-19 resources and online engagement and outreach. We have Find Well NH, Central New Hampshire resource that I'll talk about in a minute. Ongoing outreach to engage community and target population with lived experience. Began a monthly column with the Salmon Press called Changing the Conversation that comes out monthly. There we go. Collaboration with community groups and harm reduction group out of Claremont. Facilitated training and Narcan supply to all Plymouth Police Department officers. We had a successful summer webinar series in June, July, August, and September, which is available on YouTube. And we have findwellnh.com coming up. FindWell, which is a prevention, treatment, and recovery locator, will be a centralized virtual resource for everything prevention, treatment, and recovery specific to the Central New Hampshire region. So keep your eye out for that. That should be launching, I think, maybe by end of year, beginning of next year. So a few new programs in the Central New Hampshire region. Park, which is the new Plymouth Area Recovery Connection. They opened their doors on March 1st. They are now offering in-person and virtual support groups and video or telephone peer recovery coaching, adjusting to the new environment. And we work very closely in collaboration with Park to support their growth and operations, and they're members of our navigation and recovery team. Midstate has a new IOP, which opened towards the beginning of this year. IOP is a form of substance use treatment in which participants visit the treatment team a few days a week for a few hours at a time. This program is more time intensive and includes a variety of services, including group meetings and specialized programming. They typically meet on weekdays in the morning or afternoon, and sessions last for several weeks, depending on the progress of the participant. And the IOP MLADEC also provides one-on-one counseling as well. So how you can help with our program, we are definitely still recruiting members for our work teams, and we would love to have more participation from community professionals, community members, anybody with lived experience, which is really, people in recovery, family members, caregivers, anybody that's really been affected. I think they're really the subject matter experts. And we would love to have more of them on our team. So you can reach out to me if you would be interested, or someone that would be interested in joining a team, and we will get that arranged. All right, so enough about my program.
Tara, could I just interrupt for a minute? This is Deb. Is there any way you can silence everyone, mute everyone? Because when people come and go, it's very distracting, and I don't want to have Chris interrupted if we can at all possibly do that.
I can do that, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so our featured speaker today is Chris Sullivan. So just a little bit about Chris. Chris should have been on the top of the world, as he succeeded in becoming an NFL football player from 1996 to 2002 with the New England Patriots and the Pittsburg Steelers. As a member of the New England Patriots, Chris played in 2 Super Bowls and had a Super Bowl XXXVI ring. Although his outside appearance looked like he had it all together, inwardly he was suffering from anxiety and depression. When he lost his identity as a football player after his first DUI, Chris immediately turned to substances to numb his feelings. He chased his addiction to drugs and alcohol as strongly as he chased professional football. Drawing from his personal battle in life, Chris has chosen to share his story, not in the playbook, with others about the dangers of alcohol and drugs. Fortunately, after years of suffering from a substance use disorder, Chris reached out for help, and he has been sober since December 15th of 2008. And Chris, you are up.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you for thinking of me and inviting me. And is this okay where I'm at? This is kind of all new to me. I'm still trying to figure this COVID world out in video. I can personally tell you, I've never, before these videos, I have never been on like any sort of video, FaceTime, or any of that stuff. I actually used to it gave me so much anxiety when my wife would do it. I would leave the room or pull the car over, because it made me so anxious, and I'd be like, get out. But it's a new world now, and it's pretty cool to be asked to speak to you guys, because this is what you do is what I believe in. It's my passion now. Never in a million years, or 20 years ago, did I think I'd be so passionate about prevention and what choices kids made. And I never thought that I was someone that would struggle with addiction. See, I had an image of what I thought someone struggled looked like, and it didn't look like me. Like, I didn't know 20 years ago what someone that struggled with addiction or alcohol or just mental health struggles looked like. I had a built-up image in my head. With addiction, I had the image that I guess I had put together on TV. I think we had alcoholism in my family, but no one talked about it. you know. And as far as addiction, it was like I had this mental image in my head, you know, you had to be skinny or, you know, living on the streets, or like I had, you know, over the years, I had come up with this, what I thought it looked like. I didn't think it looked like me right now. I didn't think it looked like doctors, lawyers, teachers, 12-year-old kids in schools. Like I had the, you know, the end image in my head of what addiction looks like. I had the image that someone that had struggled for 10, 15 years looked like, you know, and, you know, like I said, I never thought college graduate and NFL and the kid that always did the right thing, you know, and that's what's, I struggled with that for a long time. And that's what, you know, a big reason me and my wife, you know, like to go out and speak. And, you know, I guess I have a platform because I played in the NFL, you know, and honestly, it's like, if people in recovery saved my life, you know, and like they said, in order to keep it, you got to give it away, you know. One of my biggest struggles, and I'll talk about it, and obviously it's pretty much a struggle with everyone that struggles with addiction or alcohol, or is the mental health. That was my struggle my whole life. And I still struggle with it today. I can tell you, I still have severe anxiety. You know, I'm anxious right now. I just, over the years, have learned how to cope with it in a healthy way. You know, for me, I was very fortunate to have sports, because for 28 years, sports was my medication for all my problems. It kept me in line. It kept me structured. When sports was taken away, like I had no defense for how I felt about myself. You know, for the majority of my life, I can tell you, or pretty much my whole life, until recovery taught me a new way of life and literally saved me. I think she talked about it earlier. Tara mentioned it. So, like, it was, don't judge a book by its cover. On the outside, I was a big, strong, you know, I had my mother always wanted me to have, like, my family, everyone has perfect parts. You know, I guess my wife makes fun of us. You know, you get the part on the side, you got to have a, you know, a collared shirt, you know, buttoned up. And, you know, on the outside, I looked like I had it all together. You know, I went to Boston College and I graduated and I got into graduate school while I was still playing football, and got drafted by the Patriots 5 miles from my house. And on the outside, everything looked perfect. But my whole life, honestly, it was a struggle every day. You know, I can think back to 3rd grade, 2nd grade, and I was the kid with his head down, sweating when she was calling on people around the room, trying to go to the bathroom, praying praying in 3rd grade rather than, you know, thinking of the answer, you know. And until I found recovery, like, I didn't know that that wasn't normal, you know. And I look back and it literally crippled me my whole life, even though you wouldn't be able to tell because I was successful in football. But a lot of my success came because of how I felt about myself, how I thought about myself, and the struggles I had. I never thought I was good at anything. So yeah, that helped me in sports, but it kept me from enjoying life at all. I can tell you, like, I had some great moments in college. You know, I remember when I was at Boston College, we beat #1 Notre Dame out in Notre Dame, and, you know, and everyone's celebrating. I didn't enjoy it. I was part of 2 Super Bowls, and I could tell you, I didn't enjoy a second of it, you know, because of my mental health and my anxiety, my depression, my low self-esteem. And, you know, especially in the world of addiction, that's like my biggest message. You know, there is help out there. And I wish when I was in high school or college or the NFL, when I had people that would be willing to help me, I wish I went and talked to someone, because, like I said, I was lucky. I didn't turn to substances really until I was like 27, you know, because like I had sports, you know, but if I had known earlier, there was ways to cope with it. There was ways to get through stuff, you know, I might have not gone down the path I did. And I know nowadays it is so much more stressful for people and kids. They have so much more on their plate, especially with COVID. Like, you know, we all know people are struggling. I think everyone's struggling. I mean, my wife's on here somewhere. Like the isolation for her was brutal. You know, for me, I had been isolating my whole life. So, you know, I was kind of mentally prepared for all this. I've avoided people my whole life. But yeah, the mental health aspect and especially with kids is huge, you know, because if you don't have coping skills, especially nowadays, you know, you're going to turn to something, you know, and pretty much every person in my meetings, my recovery meetings, you know, we all had the same feelings before we picked up. And, you know, just a little on my background. I grew up in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, which was about 4 or 5 miles from where the Patriots play. And I never grew up wanting to play in the NFL, never thought I would. They were awful at the time. So it wasn't something like you wanted to do. You know, I wanted to go to Boston College but like I said, growing up, I always knew I always felt different. Even today, like I can come on here and talk, you know, I still struggle with self-esteem. I still struggle with mental health and anxiety. I've just found ways to cope with it, you know, but, you know, my whole life, my only outlet was sports, really. You know, I could have gone to my parents. You know, I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, and my family still does not communicate. We love each other to death. We get together all the time, but there is zero communication. And that is like the biggest thing, especially with kids, that parents need to know. Just make your kid comfortable, make your kid feel like you can come to you. I could have gone to my parents, but I was too afraid to. And, you know, once I got in high school, once again, I was captain of football, basketball, and track. And I did drink in high school. You know, it wasn't much. And this was another warning sign I should have probably noticed. When I did drink, I always blacked out. I never had a shut off. And still to this day, if I don't pay attention, I go way over the top with things, whether it's exercise or eating or dieting. I still have that very obsessive personality, you know, and, you know, obviously I was best at football and I got recruited by Boston, a bunch of schools. I ended up going to Boston College because of Tom Coughlin. He was the Giants coach at the time, and he had taken the Boston College job, and he called me from the Super Bowl locker room in 1990 in Tampa. And right after the game, I had just watched it, and I decided to go to, you know, Boston College because of that. And I feel very fortunate. I've had so many good people. Like when I got into recovery and I started to turn my life around, it's the lessons I was fortunate enough to learn in football that probably made it a little bit easier for me. You know, when I got it this last time, I can tell you, I broke it down pretty simple. Like, I love football, but I'm not like, I was never like, I definitely don't want to be known as a football player, you know, it's what I did for a while. But when I got sober this last time, I just broke it down like a football team, and I had never thought about it like this, but I was fortunate to get in with a really great bunch of guys. For me personally now, I just do men's meetings. You know, I'll go to all sorts, but that was for me, and I needed my sponsor to be my coach. And there was assistant coaches in there, and my groups were my team. You know, and it's very simple. In football, it was great for it. Like, I wasn't best friends with everyone I played with, but I had to respect them. You know, and you have all these sorts of personalities in recovery meetings in AA and NA, and And once I broke it down like that, it was a lot easier for me, you know, but I was fortunate to be guided by a lot of great people through my life, and which in the end, like, partially saved my life, you know, that and the people in recovery. And you know, I went to Boston College and I started 48 straight games at Boston College. I had the record till a few years ago, and I never missed a snap. And I graduated in 3.5 years. And instead of just messing around and enjoying my last year there, I got into graduate school and I took courses all summer, you know, while everybody was just having fun. And I was a driven kid, you know, and I only mention this stuff because I didn't picture, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't picture someone that struggles with addiction like being this driven, you know. I thought I was different, you know, and I just had the wrong image of my head. And in 1996, and once again in college, I didn't party, you know, and this was another one of my struggles, you know. I probably went to 5 parties in 5 years in college. You kidding me? Guys were going, you know, twice a week, 3 times a week to stuff. And I'd go back, study, and go to bed. And, you know, I think I struggled longer than I should have before I got clean and sober, because I thought I was different. And I think a lot of people think that way anyway, you know, not me. And in 1996, I got drafted by the Patriots. It was Bill Parcells at the time, and I was once again fortunate that Tom Coughlin had coached with Parcells in New York. So Bill Parcells used to come to my Boston College practices in the spring just to see, and I got to know him, and I was probably a later round pick, but one of my college coaches was with another team, and I got drafted in the 4th round by the Patriots in 1996, and not really a dream come true because of my self-esteem issues that I had never taken care of. Like, I was like, why'd they draft me? You know, and you know, it wasn't something I dreamt about my whole life. And I look back and I wish I could have enjoyed those moments, you know. And I think too many people go too long, especially with struggling with mental health, before they get help. And it should have been like a exciting time in my life. And I look back and I love football, you know, and I loved football for a different aspect than a lot of guys. A lot of guys like it for game day and, you know, getting all the accolades and the money. I liked, and this is the truth, I liked football because of the pain. Still to this day, you know, I had never thought about it, but, you know, I've been in enough schools and talked to enough kids now, and, you know, in the kids that self-harm. And I was doing that my whole life. Like, if something wasn't, like if I broke my hand in camp and I knew it was going to be broken for the next 6 months, I was happy. You know, still to this day, I catch myself, I need Achilles surgery. I catch myself going to the gym, and all I do is run on the treadmill, you know, and at times I'm almost in tears, but it gets rid of, it shuts down my brain. You know, I don't feel the anxiety when something's hurting. And I had done that my whole life, you know, and it's too bad because, you know, I got drafted by the local team and I played in New England for 3 years. And in 1999, Bill Belichick came in and I signed out with the Pittsburg Steelers. I went out to Pittsburgh because they gave me $5.5 million. You know, and I always tell people it's the worst decision I ever made, you know, because my whole life I had been someone that had isolated. I had always battled depression, my social anxiety. I didn't go out in public when I played, you know, and I went out to Pittsburgh and I mention this because this is where things started to spiral for me. When I lived around North Attleboro, where I grew up, it was a safety net. It was like a warm blanket over me. Even though I didn't go out much, you know, I had my family if I needed them. You know, I'd never tell them I needed them because I was like, I thought people that talked about feelings and showed like vulnerability were weak. Like I know that now that's like the, it's 100% the opposite way. But I went out to Pittsburgh and I was super anxious. I didn't think I should have signed. Long story short, my first day at camp, I got hurt, and I hurt my back. And I had always had back struggles my whole life, but up to this point in my life, I had never missed a single practice in any sport I had ever done. Football, basketball, track, baseball. I had lots of injuries, and I don't say this because I think it makes me look tough or something. I just never wanted to let people down, and I had broken hands and wrists and had multiple concussions, and it wasn't a good thing, but I had never missed a practice in my life. If I broke a wrist, I just kept it broken till after the game. I told them we got to cast it, but that all goes back to untreated, mental health struggles I had. And sure enough, about 5 weeks later, it got so bad I was losing, my left foot wasn't working because nerve damage, and I had surgery. And after surgery, I came back 2 weeks later. It was a 6-month recovery. I came back with braces on my ankles because my ankles would just roll on me. And I knew I shouldn't have come back. But like I said, they had given me a bunch of money. It's a very high stress job. I had coaches for the first time in my life that were like pointing me out and putting a lot of pressure on me. And I mention this because things got so bad, like every day going to the facility, I was so stressed out. I started to self-medicate every night. Like that's the only thing that got me through the day. Before I used to be able to get through the day, but at this time it was just drinking. But I can look back and notice patterns, but I didn't know at the time. And that's what got me through the day. Every night I'd get home and I'd make 2 giant drinks. I'd put about 12 ounces of whiskey in a glass and drink it. And I'd do it twice. And that's what got me through. And then right before the following year, I didn't notice my drinking was progressing. I just figured everyone else drinks a lot. And right before camp, I got in a motorcycle accident. I had just bought a Harley Davidson in about early June. And really bad decision, got in the motorcycle without a helmet, or I only had flip-flop shorts and a t-shirt on, and I went over the handlebars. And I mention this because I broke my wrist at the time, and I never went to the hospital. I let it heal, however it was healed. I went to camp a month later, and I re-broke it like the second day of camp, hitting someone. And I tried to put it off as long as possible, but about 3 weeks later, I ended up going to the trainers and I ended up getting surgery. And 2 weeks after that, I was released by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I deserved to be released. I wasn't living up to my end of the bargain, and I had surgery, and it's weird that I struggled with opiates for years. I had surgeries before this and never struggled with them because I had structure. I had to get back on the field. I had to get back to practice or I was going to lose my job. And I got released by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I came back to North Attleboro, Massachusetts, and they were paying me, I think I got $800,000 over 8 weeks to sit on my couch while my wrist healed. But all those things I had struggled with, that I had some sort of structure, that gave me some sort of worth, made me feel good about myself, at least, being in the NFL and making money, and those things got really bad. And I came back to North Attleboro, and I was very, very, very depressed. Like it was bad. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. I wouldn't leave the house. I'd pull all the curtains, and I started going out at night to places I shouldn't have been. And I started hanging around with people I shouldn't have been hanging around with, not bad people, but just people that didn't care about me. You know, people just want to hang out with me for my money. And at this time, I started to buy pain pills. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. After my surgeries, I had thrown the pills away. You know, but when I was that vulnerable and when I was that stressed out, I can remember buying them. But my whole life, I had always dreamt of feeling a certain way. Like, I know that for a fact. I used to look at guys and I wanted to be anybody else but myself when I was around people. Like, I always wanted to be someone else, even though I looked like I had everything going for me. Like, I wanted to be you because you were funnier, or you could talk to people, or people gravitated to you, or you were better looking. But my whole life, I had always dreamt of feeling a certain way, you know. And in 2001, when I bought those pain pills, when I was in a very dark place, I found that feeling I had always dreamt about. I absolutely found it. Still scares me to this day to think about it. And at the time, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I didn't know that one pill would take absolutely everything from me. I didn't know it would take my whole money, all my money. I had about $4 million at the time. I didn't think it would take my family. I didn't think it would almost take my life. And, you know, what happened with me is that one pain pill, like, it's crazy, that one split-second decision. I never saw the progression, and I definitely wasn't signing up for what I got, you know, like most people. And I started taking one pill. I had teams calling me. So the Patriots are calling me, the Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles were calling me every week saying, going to have you in for, you know, we're going to sign you when your wrist heals. And I was barely training at the time. And long story short, in October, the Patriots called. Bill Belichick called and he said, can you come in for a workout? It was like 9 at night. I was actually at a liquor store in North Attleboro. When he called, I went in for a workout the next day. I got back on the team. 2 months later, we won a Super Bowl. It always baffles, you know, people ask me, like a lot of people can't understand how powerful it is, you know, and I wouldn't have thought before I knew, like, I wouldn't have thought it was as powerful it is. And I always tell people, and this is a 100% true story, is I started taking a pill once a week in September. So in January, I guess 02, or 6 months later, I got on the team playing with the Patriots. I took 300 Percocets with me for 5 days down there. Now, I don't know if I took them all. I don't really remember, but just the idea that I think that's okay. And I don't have a problem, but being a local kid, and I remember Vinatieri kicked that field goal. She put a picture up me. That's me at the Super Bowl. That's media day. But I'm supposed to be on the field. You know, that epitomizes me. You know, I've kind of watched life go by trying to hide on the outside. I avoided media. I avoided social situation. I avoided everything. But that Super Bowl, I remember the confetti was coming down. And I remember being on the sideline when all the guys are running, crying. My parents were in the stands, my sister, my brother was there. And guys are running up, grabbing their families, hugging them, crying them. I mean, my family was unbelievable. They never missed a practice or a game. And I remember standing there and I was mad. I didn't run on the field. I didn't hug anyone. I didn't move, you know, because I had left all my Percocet or Vicodin in the hotel room. I didn't want to bring them to the game because it was right. That was the first Super Bowl after 9/11, and security was going to be crazy at the game. And I didn't want to bring them to the game, but I was actually mad that I had left them in the hotel room. When all the other guys, the confetti's coming down, they're taking it all in. And it's like, that's how powerful it is. You know, it's more powerful than actually being in the moment I was in, something I had worked 28 years for, 25 years of football, to get to that point, and my head's in a hotel room. And after the game, we had a team party, and I met my parents there. I kissed them and left. And I never went back to the party. You know, I didn't enjoy, like, I thought it was more important, and I was much happier sitting in a dark hotel room with those pain pills and a bottle of booze than I was sitting in a party for the Super Bowl. That was probably insane and fun and a lot of cool stuff to watch. And I thought it was more important than my family that had stuck by me my whole life and flew down to New Orleans to watch the Super Bowl. And a few months later, things were just spiraling. And the night we got our Super Bowl ring, I actually have it with me. I've never worn it. It means a lot to me, but I've never put it on, you know. And but the night we got our rings, I went into Boston and I thought I was having a good time, and I was taking some pills and drinking. And on the way home, I got arrested. I got an OUI in Lexington, Massachusetts, and I spent the night in jail. Another, what should have been a high point for most kids, getting your Super Bowl ring, was ruined. And a few days later, it was going to get in the newspaper. And the Patriots called, because back then you got in the newspaper, right? It wasn't, you could get on the news, but it wasn't all this Facebook. And they said, it's going to get in the paper, call Bill Belichick. He was on Nantucket at the time. And tell him what happened. And I remember I called him, and when I got off the phone, I had a decision to make. And I didn't know in September that decision was already made. You know, put the pills down. That seems so harmless. They look like aspirin. Put that down, stop drinking, get back in the gym, play another 3-4 years in the NFL, turn your life around. I mean, when you're in the right mind, it seems like a pretty easy decision, you know. But I gave up football 6 months after taking my first pill. And things got bad quick, you know, as you'd expect. I had a lot of money. That's actually my bedroom picture. I didn't leave my room for 3 years. It's crazy to think where my life went. You know, I did the regular path. I went to Percocet, to Oxycontin, to eventually a friend saying, try heroin, it's cheaper. I had $1,000 a day heroin habit for about 3 years at the time. I was drinking 24 hours. I mean, it's crazy where it took me. Like in 2001, when I bought them, I didn't think by 2005 I'd be 165 pounds. You know, I literally couldn't walk. I had to learn to walk again because I hadn't used my muscles in so long. You know, I'm not going to talk too much about where it took me, but, you know, I was charged with 5 OUIs, intent to distribute. I totaled 8 cars. I went to 15 rehabs over the 8 years. I went to the emergency room 8 times by ambulance. You know, I don't know if I overdosed and during that time, but it obviously brought me to my knees, you know. And I think back to 2001 when I bought that pill, and I think it's the same with a lot of people. I found that feeling that I had thought about my whole life, you know, and I chased it for 8 years. And I guess 8 years, I feel very fortunate that it wasn't longer. I feel very fortunate that recovery found me and turned my life around and made the most amazing change in my life. You know, but the worst part of what I did was what I did to my family. And it's still, usually when I talk about it, I get all choked up, but never in a million years would I put the people I love through what I put them through. You know, even right when I started struggling with addiction, I got a girlfriend, she had 2 kids, and they were 7 and 9 years old when they moved in my house. And yeah, thinking back, that kept me sober for a long time. Just the thought of those 2 kids. I put them in awful situations. I wasn't like, I didn't yell and scream or physically hit, you know. I just wasn't there. You know, I was getting arrested all the time. I was in the town I grew up in. They were in the school. You know, they heard the rumors. They read it in the paper. They had to stick up for me. And, you know, I feel so fortunate to be here because I drove, you know, 50, 60, 100 times drunk with them in the car. You know, that's the stuff that I look back and I'm like, how could I have been that person? You know, but when you're struggling with addiction or alcohol, you know, you're not yourself, you know. And what happened to me is, so I had been to multiple rehabs and I had done the circuit. And I remember around right before December 15, 2008, like I had just about given up. Like I thought I had tried, but I didn't think I was going to get clean and sober. I thought my parents were going to section 35 me again. In Massachusetts, they can put you in jail for a month, kind of like a jail. So they can basically sleep. But that's Ashley and Alexis, the 2 girls in the bottom picture, one with a baby. Yeah, the stuff I put the kids through is what I think back and gets me like, I get really upset. But you know, I'm a different person. And so December 14th, 2008, my sponsor now, and the best thing I ever did, you know, under the influence was call him and asked him to be my sponsor because he was coming by my house all the time. And he came by and I was in bed and my mother and father were in the house, in my apartment, because I had lost my house. So I was in a little apartment right down the street from where I'm at now, but it was a tiny, I wasn't paying rent. I had no heat, I had nothing. And he came by and my mother was in the bedroom, standing over my bed, begging God to take my life. And obviously my mother didn't want me not around anymore, but my mother didn't want to watch me struggle anymore. And I got up December 15th, 2008, and I don't know why that day. I don't question it. It wasn't a low point. I wasn't in a jail or probation. It wasn't some sort of jackpot. I woke up that morning and I had a total nervous breakdown, panic attack. I was crying for about 3 hours uncontrollably. I tried to get in the church next door to pray and it was locked. And I was like, I didn't know, I always thought you could get in a church, but I came back to that apartment and I sat on that couch and I was praying and I was crying and I don't know what happened, you know, and like I said, I don't question it. It was the first time I got the gift of desperation they talk about. It was the first time like I felt like I was all in, you know, I couldn't look at myself anymore. And that was the thing, you know, I was exhausted, I was worn down and I was tired. And for me, my sponsor now that was coming by my house 3 times a day, doing wellness checks to make sure I was alive. You know, he'd come in, steal my wallet. So I couldn't get, you know, the whole, he showed up about 20 minutes later. If he didn't show up that day, I wouldn't have got sober that day. You know, I might've got sober eventually. And for the first time, I allowed someone to help, and I detoxed at home. And I know that's bad. You know, I wouldn't obviously suggest it, but I remember telling him, I want to feel this. I want to go through it. And, but he introduced me to a world that I didn't know existed. And for the 8 years before this, I had gone to meetings, and I'm very socially, I always sat in back, I didn't talk, and I snuck out. And I still do that, but I was basically handheld by him to a world that has changed my life, and how I view, I would so much rather be sitting in a church basement or a little building than I would to be up the stadium with guys I used to play with. Like I said, the recovery world, it changed me. It changed me forever. And I'm so, it was the first time in my life that I ever had hope, and I found that in meetings. I didn't find it from Bill Belichick or all these great coaches as far as giving speeches and talks. The first time I ever found it was in recovery, that, I can change. My life can change. I got to put some work in, and mental health still for me, it's something I have to work on for the rest of my life. I thought if I did enough talks or I got up in front of a school 50 times that it would just be fine after a while. Like me and my wife going to schools, and we're told, we are so opposite, it's insane. I'm super clean and neat and a perfectionist, and she's like in the morning it looks like a microburst. It looks like it hits the bedroom, goes down the stairs into the bathroom and then out. But I don't know where I was even going with that. But we are so, she greets every kid. She hugs every single person that comes into a building. And I hide, I'm sweating right now. I hide behind the stage and I pray. I pray for the right words. I pray to say the right thing, but I thought it would be better by now. And it's still a struggle, and that's a big thing I want people, and especially kids. It doesn't just go away. You have to put work, unfortunately, and I'm still working on myself, and obviously I'll be doing it for the rest of my life. And I'm always going to have struggles with mental health. There is no quick fix. I've done doctors, I've done psychiatrists, and I've got to a point where I have found coping tools for myself, and they're not the coping tools that would work for, say, everyone. My biggest thing, like this morning, I knew I was doing this, and this is like my first Zoom talk, and I was nervous. And so got up at 4:30, went to the gym at 5, ran 4 miles, and then I lifted, and then I came back, and my wife was not ready yet. I'm throwing her under the bus. And but that's part of my routine. It's kind of like, that's always my number one. I know I have to reach out and talk to someone, though, even because that's just helping me naturally. Everyone's got to find their routine. And for me, part of my routine involves dogs. I have 5 dogs, and I need time with the dogs. And, like I said, it's just, there's no quick fix, and mental health is in it. It's going to be a lifelong journey, but I think every person, obviously, in recovery struggles with that in some way, shape, or form, and I don't know if we're doing question and answer now, but I'm very thankful you guys asked me, because this is really important to me, especially the prevention part of everything. Obviously, I believe in it all, but, I think for me personally, I think if I can go to a school and talk to kids, at least the thought is in their head. I don't know if it's gonna stop them from trying something for the first time. You know, that's the hope, but at least there's a, you know, thought in there, maybe this isn't a good idea. You know, maybe I shouldn't do this. Or if they'll say it to a friend, or if they are struggling, like, oh, this is gonna get worse, you know, and you know, I think I'm gonna end with that. I don't know how long I went, 40.
That was perfect.
Okay. I have more stuff, but I'd rather have people just ask questions if they want.
No, that was great. Thank you so much, Chris. I
Thank
think
you.
it really
Yeah,
makes
sorry.
people.
Oh, and I have these. It's funny. I forgot to, am I still on?
Yeah.
So like I mentioned, the Super Bowl ring, I always talk about this because this is the truth, and it's amazing how meaningful recovery is to me and the recovery world and the people in it. I've never worn the Super Bowl ring. It's had quite a journey from, it's been its first night in jail and all that, but I've never worn this. I carry this with me 24 hours a day, my sobriety chip. You know, the first thing I will tell you about me is I'm in sobriety. I went to the reunion of this. They had a reunion last year, and I wasn't going to go because I avoid things, and my wife made me, and I avoided the email. Then I went. It was nice, but the people always, you know, like, what have you been up to? What's going on? And the first thing I tell them about my struggle with addiction. I don't tell them about that I owned a company, you know. And when people ask me nowadays, I'm proud of the stuff I did with football. But if I'm out and about or in a taxi and people ask me a question, they don't find out about football till the end. You know, I think it's, you know, so important for people to know there's no reason to be ashamed of it. And I can tell you probably at first I was, because I didn't think it was me, you know, but yeah, so, but if I ask kids in schools which one costs more money, is more important, you know, most of the kids point to this, you know, but if you ask my family, friends, or anyone in my life, my mother, who I'm her favorite, which one is more important, she will say my chip too. And I don't, and it's kind of cool to, I never thought, you know, that would be the most important thing in my life, this chip, you know, and I never thought that the people that I trust with anything would be in recovery when I first got into recovery. And it's great what you guys are doing, and I'm proud to be in recovery. You know, I don't tell people much stuff about myself, but I'll definitely talk about recovery any day of the week. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Chris. All right. All right.
Hey, Chris, this is Paul. Sorry for joining late.
Oh, no.
You can hear me okay?
Oh, I can see you. I'm figuring all this Zoom stuff out, so.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just, I guess I have more of a comment than a question. And you've probably heard this before, but it's just it's kind of my reaction to your talk this morning. It would appear that the mental health aspect of this, and I've had my own journey into mental health with depression, anxiety. And one of the things that that I observe about myself is that I struggle to see myself in a good light. I naturally default to a you're not good enough type of self-talk and messaging. And I try to look at things that I've done in my life that should give me some pride to sort of counter those thoughts. And I look at you and I say to myself, boy, he's got an arsenal of weapons to fight up against that negative self-talk, given your professional success and now your success through recovery. So what I'm leading up to is, do you find that acknowledging the things that you've actually done, which are admirable, do you find that helps you with the depression, or do you struggle, countering those negative thoughts?
I absolutely struggle because, so so I've been sober, so I'm 48. I mean, for the first 38 years of my life, every thought I had was negative. And this is like, I'm glad you brought that up because it is so hard to change that. And still to this day, like most of my first thoughts are still negative. And like you said, I'm constantly trying to counteract that because I know I'm a good person. I know I'm a nice person. Like I know I give a lot. I give a lot more than I take, and I have a great life. And me and my wife's on here. Honestly, I bring it up constantly because it's like it's so hard to change those thoughts. But I have to literally do it every day, most of the day. When my wife, who's on here, like she just is always positive. And it's very hard because I still, even though I constantly work on myself, I still have low self-esteem. Even like when I talk to people, like most of, I'll get off and I'm like, oh, I stunk. I didn't do very well. And my wife's like, you were great. You did this. And people are like, you were relaxed. And I'm sweating. It's gotten better.
Yeah.
A lot better. And I thought by now, like I would be totally changed. But I realize now it's not that easy, and it's constantly like, not every day, but I'm constantly like doing saying stuff I'm grateful for and running things through because I have a great life. I'm not like, I don't super rich and a ton of money like I did, but I get a great family. My whole family, like it's just one, I got a great life, but it's definitely a daily thing for me.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah, it's hard to change that.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so I don't actually see any questions typed in the chat box right now. But if people also want to ask their question
I would like
verbally.
Tara, this is Deb. I wanted to thank you, Chris. You did great on so many levels. The Zoom I know is challenging, but wow, the power of your story, which is typically lost over Zoom, came through very, very strong. And I want to tell you, I want to thank Kathy for connecting me to you. And I want to thank Vicki Harris, a friend of mine, and Vicki down in the Dover Youth. She recommended both you and Kathy. And she's been a friend for a long time, and I trust her wholeheartedly. And boy, I'll tell you, you do not disappoint. I just want to tell you that we're going to bring you back to speak to our kids. But, I'm a Pats fan, and my husband's a big football fan. You may be a football, you may have played professional football, but you're a hero on other levels because you are changing lives each and every day by telling your compelling story. And I just want to say thank you for that. And to me, courage is somebody that goes out and you basically are taking that anxiety, which you feel, you're tabling it for a while, and you're telling this story in spite of that. That's true courage. And I just want to say thank you for that, because that's why you're a hero and you're saving lives. So thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, I just had a question. Hi, Chris, it's Shauna. Hi, Kathy.
Shauna, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you again for your story. I just said to Kathy, I hear it over and over and over, and it inspires me different every time I hear it because it's so much like mine.
Yeah.
So, with mental illness and recovery, have you ever thought that, I know you just opened a recovery center, but that certain people need certain things in their recovery more than just the book. It's people, community, like, and all that stuff, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I have I know what worked for me or is working for me. But everyone's road, like, I think before I was just abstinence meetings, like, but I know now it's like everyone's path's different. You know, some people need more meetings, less meetings, what, you know, you get Suboxone, method, you know, I don't know, but, you know, everyone path is different, you know. I went to a lot of meetings at first, you know, and now I do like 3 a week, but then I have a couple nights at the gym. I try to do something with my wife some nights, and, you know, everyone, it's different. You know, some people need counseling, doctor, you know. I don't think there's ever, I think if you get your life back and your life turned around and become a productive person and you're happy, you know, I think that's what matters, you know. I don't, however you can get clean and sober and get your life back and get your family back and be happy, that's what I think people need to do. You know, I know what I believe in, you know, I you know, the abstinence and meetings, but I would never push that, you know. I tell people that's what worked for me. You know, I have no problem saying what worked for me, you know, but I'm not one to so much question other people's way of doing things, you know. As long as, hey, if you can turn your life around and be happy, that's what I'm for.
Which is freedom in itself, I think.
Yeah.
Total freedom. It's like when you say recovery is greater than you ever thought. I never thought I'd be where I am 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one question from the chat box. A question about family and your relationship with your mom. When you were younger, did you ever consider reaching out to your mom to describe those negative feelings? And it seemed that sports and success was a way to hide the pain and anxiety.
I never once thought to go to anyone. I don't know where it started or how it got built up so strong. I never went to a coach, no one, my whole life. Even when I was hurt and injured, I wouldn't even go to the trainer, you know. And it was nothing my mother did. You know what? You know, it's not funny, but my mother's been sick for a while now, and I did something a few weeks ago, like a few months ago, and she had watched it. It was on TV, but I went over there and I thought she was going to, I usually don't tell them because I'm very insecure still, but she had watched it and I went in, she was crying. She's like, I never knew you struggled that wrong. I'm sorry. And she was apologizing. And I'm like, what are you apologizing for? Like, you did nothing wrong. You know, you didn't know I was struggling. And I never, the thought it never even entered my mind. You know, I think when I get clean and sober, I think it's a lot easy. It's still not easy at times for me to ask for help. I will ask for help with, my wife can attest to this, with struggles, you know, my mental health struggles, but like physically, I still, you know, I've moved like 8 houses by myself, which is not smart, but I guess I got to pick my battles. But yeah, growing up, I just didn't know you did that. You know, my father was my hero. I can tell you, my father is who I wanted to be my whole life. I still haven't told him that. He maybe saw it somewhere in one of these talks, but I wanted to become my father, and I became my father. And I'll tell you, 99% of that's good. My father's extremely hardworking. He's strong. He didn't really complain much, you know, and I got all his good attributes, but communication was one of the bad ones. And we still struggle. Like my family, I hope my whole family struggles, but a lot of people here, especially like people my age and older, it's like that generation didn't talk. You know, I used to see guys in college, like you Italian people, right? Like I'd see the Italian guys hugging and kissing their fathers. Like they'd come up for a game and tell them their father about who they were dating. And I thought some weird stuff. Like, I'm like, this family is strange. So you do handshakes and you know, you don't even say bye, you know, like you don't hug, you know, but yeah, I wish I had a more open relationship with my parents, and I have that with my ex-girlfriend's children are basically my stepchildren. I adopted them, or they adopted me, you know. But I'm definitely much more open with them, and now I have grandkids, and that's the best thing that came out of my absolute addiction was now I have Finn and Reese. So Alexis, she was the blonde one. She had 2 kids, and Ashley, the brunette, just had another kid, and I get to be a grandfather, you know. It's actually the greatest thing in the world. Like, I didn't think, like, recovery has taught me how to love people. Like, I love these kids like crazy. I didn't think, I only thought I could love dogs and maybe my wife. Sorry, Kath. But no, yeah. I wish I knew I could have reached out and they would have listened, you know. I felt bad because my mother was crying. I'm like, you didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't your fault.
Fred, you have a hand up?
Yes, okay. You unmuted me, thank you. Hi, Chris, this is Fred. First thing, I just want to suggest one piece of advice for you. Listen to your wife. She is right when she says you're doing a good job. Your story is very, very powerful. It's told in a very natural way. And it really, really strongly makes the point that this can happen to anybody. Yeah. And I appreciate the way you told the story, and I appreciate the message of it. So I personally just wanted to thank you. You may not be seeing it, but I checked the chat, and even though there may not be a lot of questions in the chat, there is a lot of people saying the same thing I'm saying in the chat. So you may want to take a look at it later.
I'll send you all the comments afterwards.
Thank you.
They're wonderful.
I'm not very technical. Sorry.
All right, let's see. Does anybody else have a question for either Chris or the board members?
I would just like to thank Fred. Thank you, Fred. And honestly, everybody, you know, Chris always, and I love the fact that you said, you know, he talks negatively about himself and doesn't give himself credit, because he's so amazing. And I don't say that just because I'm the wife, you know, looking out and picturing him not being the husband. I see how he expresses himself, and he lets off his emotions, and that's what basically this whole recovery world's all about. So congratulations, Chris, on getting your first one done. You did good. And you know what, Vicki and Deb, Tara, you guys do this every single day for hundreds and hundreds of people. So every single person that actually signed up here as a participant, kudos to you too, because you're actively involved in this recovery world. And as someone looking back, you know, losing my daughter to underage drinking, and that's how I met Chris, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because neither one of us would be sitting here today, you know, in this place, if we weren't able to be surrounded by fabulous people like you who do it every day. So Vicki, I love you, love you, love you, love you. Thank you again. And I'm glad we guys got to meet you guys. So keep up the good work, guys. I'm muting myself. Chris will appreciate this.
Mute button, that'd be great.
That's great. Chris, I do have one. This is Deb. I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
We always say that, you know, parents have a powerful influence on their kids as far as from the prevention aspect. And all parents, and I know your dad feels this way, I feel that way about my kids when I learn, you know, 10, 20 years down the road that they were struggling with things, yet they never shared them at the time. You know, that parent relationship is so key. Do you feel that if you had, you know, and your parents' generation kind of, I get it, I understand, communication was not probably their strongest suit as much as it is today. We're much more open. Do you feel that if you were able to have those conversations with your parents about the anxiety that you were struggling with at that time, and they were able to connect you with help, would that have prevented you from going down? And that this is no blame to anybody, because it's just, it is what it is, right?
Yes.
So would that have helped, do you think?
I 100%. I mean, not 100%, but I think yes. I mean, I think if it's something I think some people never deal with it, and I think the longer you put it off, like it's harder to change. You not change it, but it's harder. I think it's harder to change your thinking. It might be harder to turn things around. Like I honestly believe I would have a hugely different shot if it was something I started when I was 18 or 16 or 13, just expressing yourself.
Yeah.
Like just knowing, it's funny, even when the parents like, just making it so your kids feel like they can come to you, but also, because we all know, I hear it constantly in meetings, I couldn't wait to be 21 so I could drink like my parents did for stress. Like, I think a lot of kids, that's how mom and dad or Uncle Joe deals with his stress, is drinking, on a Friday night and Saturday. I don't think parents realize sometimes, like, that's why your kid's going to go down. Like,
Yeah.
You sit in meetings and hear people like, oh, I can't believe my kid's doing this. Well, he watched you. It's like,
Right.
I think it's hugely important, especially having your kids come trust you. I'm not saying don't have a drink,
Right.
but don't make it so your kid thinks that's how you deal with life, yeah, parents, a lot to, you definitely have people looking up to you, but like you said, I think it would have made a big difference.
Yep.
If I had learned to express myself or not be afraid to talk to someone when I was 18, 16, or even 27, I think it would have helped a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
All right, does anybody else have a question? Well, thank you so much, Chris. And I will definitely send you both all these comments in the chat, because they're just echoing what everybody has said and how much everyone appreciates it and how powerful the message was. So thank you again.
Thank you.
The slides today, I will email to all the participants so they have them.
I did just put, not to interrupt you, I put Chris's email in the chat box too, if anybody wants to get a hold of him. Oh, but I spelled it wrong, of course. It's Chris Sullivan's message at gmail.com. If anybody wants to reach out to him directly, if they had any.
I can send that in the email with the slides.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
then
Chris.
we will also be uploading the recording. And I will let everybody know when that's up. It takes a little bit to upload and cut it up and everything. So my contact information is here and will be in the email I send out as well. tgraham@katieinc.org. If anybody would like to get in touch with me about future programming or joining one of the teams, or any other thoughts you may have. And I believe that is all we have. Deb, did you want to say any closing notes?
I wanted to say thank you to you, Tara, for coordinating this. It's very powerful, and I know it's appreciated by everyone. And it's, I also want to say thank you to our board we applied for the Rural Communities Opioid Response Grant because we felt the urgency of the opioid epidemic, and I personally have had several friends that have lost their 20-something children to opioid overdoses. And our communities have, not only does the data, in our region support the need for services, but when we hear the compelling stories like Chris and so many others, it puts that human face to this, to addiction and to the epidemic, and really grabs people's attention and say, hey, we need to do something about this. And that's what really led me to want to go after that grant initially, because Katie's mission, you know, up until about 7-8 years ago, was completely prevention, primary prevention focused. And we stepped into the continuum of care realm. And because of the, really the opioid epidemic was something that sparked the need. And, you know, we have to respond, we have to listen, we have to respond to what those needs are in our community and try to close those gaps. And I think one of the best way to help with stigma is to hear stories like Chris's, and to, we also have Alex's story, and Alex's story is the story of a 13-year-old that progressed from, you know, alcohol and marijuana to, you know, prescription drugs, and to then to heroin injection. And so we've taken those stories to the schools with Alex and our partnership with Plymouth State Tiger Program. And it really helps to make it real, that yes, it can happen to anyone. But when we put prevention, treatment, and recovery in place as a powerful continuum of care initiative, we're able to prevent, reduce substance misuse, prevent addiction, and save lives, and you know, help people find recovery. So, you know, Katie didn't do this alone. Our partners at Mid-State Health Center, Spear Memorial Hospital, Plymouth Area Recovery Connection, and Lakes Region Mental Health Center, we're all in this together, this partnership, and that's what it takes. It takes true collaboration to make the kind of monumental change that Chris just spoke to. So thank you very much again, Chris and Kathy. You are unbelievable heroes. And I just want to thank all of our partners for working with us on this very important life-saving initiative. That's all.
Definitely.
That's all she wrote.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
echo that. We couldn't do it without everybody.
Yeah, so that's it. So have a great day.
Anything you ever need for, call.
We will. You know, I'll be calling you very soon.
Use and abuse us.
Oh, we love it. So thank you, Chris. Thank you,
everyone.
Kathy.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having them.
Yes, thank you, Kathy.
Thanks.
Great rest of your day, everyone.
We
Thank
will.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Am I still? Oh.